On Monday, September 28th of 2020, the Police Department of Woodbridge Township, New Jersey perpetrated a predatory policing action on motorists at the intersection of Green Street and Route 9 in Woodbridge, extorting money from dozens and dozens of drivers over several hours.
So listen, you guys just came from Green Street on the other side of Route 9? Right. So when you're coming down Green Street, you can't put across all three lanes, so there's a solid white line there on that off-ramp. To come onto this side, you actually, so there's a solid white line there, you have to get out of Main Street.
The fact is that there was no solid white line there, and even if there were, according to the New Jersey Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, it is not illegal to cross a single solid white line. There were also traffic signs there allowing the lane change, but we'll get to that. Each of these drivers were issued a traffic violation ticket under New Jersey State Statute 39:4-88 Bravo, which is traffic on marked lanes, unsafe lane change. If found guilty of this offense, this ticket will cost you 2 points on your driver's license and carries a fine of $186. On this little stretch of Green Street, I personally witnessed at least 5 cop cars, most of which were unmarked, and a merry-go-round of stopping motorists and issuing tickets for several hours. A ticket was being issued by each officer approximately every 5 minutes. That would be 12 tickets per hour per officer. At $186 per ticket, if you pled guilty and paid the fine, that would be $11,160 per hour of revenue being generated for the Township of Woodbridge. Of course, the prosecutors will give you the opportunity to plead to a lesser offense that you did not commit, that doesn't carry points, but carries a fine of several $100s more. That generates much more revenue for them. And of course, motorists would prefer to pay extra money rather than get the 2 points on their license, and that's just part of the whole scam. I know of a particular motorist that pled not guilty to this ticket. It took him a year in the COVID kangaroo court via Zoom, but his case was dismissed with no fines and no points. None of these tickets should have been written in the first place. As I said previously, there was no solid white line, and the marked road signs allowed traffic lane changes. Here's the evidence. Every one of the dozens of motorists who got ticketed that day came down this portion of Green Street to merge onto Route 9. Then they would cross over to the left side of Route 9 to exit under the underpass and continue up onto Green Street into Woodbridge. This has happened every day for decades on this route without police molestation. But this day was different. On this day there was a trap. Here is the route on September 28th of 2020. The silver vehicle parked in the grass on the left is an unmarked police car, and he is the spotter. He observes any cars changing lanes exiting Route 9 to go up to Green Street under the underpass, and he radios the vehicle description to the gang of police waiting on the other side. Take note of the yellow traffic control signs. We're going to get back to those in a minute. But for now, let's observe the alleged solid white line. There is none. It is definitely not a solid white line. From this point, a motorist would have more than enough time to check his side and rear view mirrors to ascertain that it is safe to make the lane changes to take the exit on the left up to Green Street as we see here. Let's get back to those pesky signs. The only existing traffic control signs on the route in question are called an added lane sign. As defined under Section 2C.41 in the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the signs are designated by the identification of W4-3, which is an added lane sign. And it states, the added lane W4-3 sign should be installed in advance of a point where two roadways converge and merging movements are not required. When possible, the added lane sign should be placed such that it is visible from both roadways. If this is not possible, an added lane sign should be placed on the side of each roadway. So it is quite clear that according to the manual, the sign does not require a merge, but it also does not restrict one either. As I had mentioned previously, one particular driver got this ticket dismissed and paid no fines and had no penalties. They immediately pled not guilty to this ticket and requested discovery from Woodbridge Township Court prosecutors. The courts were not cooperative at all in providing discovery to the defendant. But very interestingly, 3 weeks after this extortion of motorists, the highway lines were all freshly painted. This does not change anything in the legality of crossing a solid white line or making proper lane changes to take an exit. I just thought it was kind of suspect that the lines were repainted so soon after this predatory policing act. No traffic signs were changed. The caption on the Woodbridge Police logo reads, "Leading the way to a safer community." Was this policing action about safety, or was it just a money grab? It seems quite logical that if the municipality were that concerned with the safety of this particular section of roadway, the signage and the lines would have been changed a long time ago. It does not appear that safety was a concern when each officer, after just having written a ticket, would hurry to get back in line to write another one by making an illegal U-turn into the blind spot of oncoming traffic exiting off of Route 9, and then park right at the top of the hill of that exit, blocking the view of anyone coming up Oakwood Avenue to make a right turn onto Green Street, as this vehicle is doing right here in this video. This happened over and over for several hours. Here is an interesting procedural legal question on this entire charade. It is my understanding that in a court of law, a defendant has the right to depose their accuser. For each officer that issued one of these tickets, it is his name on the ticket and he is the one subpoenaed to a court to testify against the driver. But he never witnessed anything because he was on the other side of the bridge, nearly a quarter mile away from the spotter who was up on a hill on the other side of the highway, calling ahead potential victims on his radio. That's why these cops never show up in court when they are subpoenaed, because they weren't there. Anyone with a legal background, please comment on this with your thoughts and experience. I would like to know who the mastermind was behind this big scam of revenue collection from drivers who are not committing any traffic offense. Was it the chief of police? Was it a prosecutor saying just issue the tickets and we'll collect the money? Or did it come from higher up in state government? In my opinion, this is corruption. This is a modern-day speed trap, except they use lane changes instead of speeding. The system counts on the fact that people don't have time to try and defend themselves in the slow grinding wheels of the judicial system, and people don't want to burden the expense of an attorney for a traffic offense, even if they're not guilty. It is sad to think of the dozens and dozens of people who either just pled guilty and paid the $160 fine and got 2 points on their license, or showed up in court to plea bargain their ticket down to 0 points and a $439 ticket for a different offense they did not commit. The defendant of the ticket represented in this video got his case dismissed with no fines or penalties because he pled not guilty to the ticket and sought his day in court, which he never really got because the courts kept trying to tie him up with cancellations, procedural and administrative errors, and postponement after postponement because the ticketing police officer refused to show up in court. The prosecutor refused to provide us with the discovery we had requested, which is against the rules of the court. Here is the final hearing with the judge, who had no choice but to dismiss this case because the prosecutors couldn't prove anything. I may or may not do a follow-up video with all the details and the debacle of the court proceedings that went on for a year that led up to this dismissal. In any case, stay safe out there and keep your eyes on the road. As a matter of fact, keep your eyes on everything, and if it smells fishy, record it and document it.
Andrea, can you bring the municipal prosecutor into this, please?
Yes, and he also, Harry wants to speak to April for the Gonzalez matter as well, but I'll go grab Harry.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning. Please state your name for the record.
Judge Harry's here as well.
All right, Mr. Prosecutor, I brought you in on the matter. Mr. presented his appearance, and I have your appearance, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Harold Parrott for the state.
All right, thank you, Mr. Panara. I'm looking at the procedural history of this matter. Mr. is making an application to have the case dismissed. I'm looking, there happens to be 2 file jackets on this, but they're for the same ticket. And I gather, I don't know if you've had a chance to review the procedural history, but the matter was scheduled, according to what I have, for a virtual trial on April 26, 2021. The notation on the file jacket was that the officer was notified on April 19th for that virtual trial. The matter was adjourned from that date. Didn't go forward. It then got rescheduled to July 6, 2021 for a trial. Didn't go forward on that date. Apparently adjourned again. Then was before me on August 11th, 2021. And I believe Mr. made an application to dismiss the matter on that date, stated requesting adjournment for the officer and for trial. And I denied the application and dismissed it on that date and scheduled it for trial. And we're now here again, and this appears to be the fourth trial listing, and the state is not prepared to proceed. So I called you in because you sent in a disposition sheet indicating your request to adjourn the matter again for the officer, also noting that Mr. advised you intended to make a request to dismiss the matter. So number one, Mr. Murray, I gather you're, since the prosecutor noted, you're asking me to dismiss the charge because the state was unable to proceed again in trial. Is that correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Very well. All right, Mr. Prosecutor, your position in that regard, and this appears to be the fourth trial date.
Thank you, Your Honor. I did have an opportunity to check with my staff, who advises me that we did in fact subpoena the officer for trial this morning. However, I believe on the staff indicates that the court keeps scheduling the matter for a time when the officer works a different shift. He doesn't work this side, and so as a result of that, the subpoena went out for a time when the officer is off.
Okay, well, I appreciate your candor, of course, but this appears to be trial listing number 4, based upon what I see from these file jackets. And I understand the reason why the officer is not here today, and I don't fault that because of what you disclosed with regard to scheduling. But
Yes.
Mr. Murray has been here a number of times, expects to go to trial. It denied previous motions to dismiss, but this is trial date number 4 where the state can't proceed. And I don't fault you, Mr. Prosecutor, but whatever the scheduling mix-up was, you can't proceed because the officer's not here.
Yes, sir.
So, Mr. Based upon that, unless you wish to elaborate further, this is the 4th trial listing. I know you're prepared to proceed to trial today, correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
The state is not, and I'm granting your application, and ticket E20 is hereby dismissed, lack of prosecution.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Anything else before the court today, Mr.? I don't think so.
No, Your Honor. Thank you very much.
If it's dismissed, you can log off. Stay safe out there.
Thank you, you too.